Fun Home Edition Performer Profile. We have so much in store for you today. First, let's please ask, if you're watching this live, give it a share. If you're watching it after the fact, give it a share. We'd love to have more people in the conversation. And to thank you for your time, we're going to do a couple of quick giveaways. So all you have to do is comment where you're watching from, and we will give you either one of the very cool collectible Sun and Fun t-shirts that I'll show you in a minute, or we'll give you 4 tickets to Sun and Fun 2021. By the way, the winner from our last performer profile for the shirt was Moses Kelly from Lawton, Oklahoma. And then the 4 tickets went to Jamie Patton from Denver, Colorado, who comes to Sun and Fun most years. And by the way, if you wear that shirt in your future Sun and Fun for 2021, the prize patrol will be out there and you might win some really cool things. But to talk more about what the mission is, the depth behind the Sun and Fun Home Edition experience, let's bring in Greg Gibson. Hey, Greg, how are you?
Hey, Steph, doing great. It's good to see everybody again, even though we're not together.
So tell me a little bit about Sun and Fun Home Edition and what it is that you're hoping to accomplish with this really expansive effort that extends beyond the telethon on May 30th and into the months after that.
You know, Steph, the Sun and Fun Home Edition has actually evolved into quite a pretty cool thing. We are going to take what we couldn't do live with the Sun and Fun Aerospace Expo back in April, and we're going to extend that content online and then stretch it all the way to the 2021 live event. So we've got, of course, these performer profiles we have coming up on May 30th at 6 p.m. We're going to be doing a live online benefit. In between that, the way you're going to be able to sign up and actually get some opportunities to win prizes is to log on, and we'll be releasing this information very shortly, to our silent auction site. So you're going to be able to sign up. You don't have to buy anything. You don't even have to bid. But that's the way you get in line for the big free swag that we're going to give away on the 30th. So that's phase 1, starting up not too long after the live online benefit. We're going to have a host of other things and bring some other air show performers, some of our military friends, a lot of excitement. So there's quite a bit that's going to be happening, so people are going to want to stay tuned.
Well, so far as I'm checking in now on the Facebook chat, we've got Juan checking in from Argentina, a lot of folks in Florida saying hello, and really all over the place. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Jupiter, Florida. Robert, hello. Thank you for joining us from Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're going to get right to it because we also know that you're here for the great content and to learn the stories behind the air show experience and behind the Sun and Fun family. So without further ado, let me bring into the conversation right now Paul and Caroline Dougherty. Hey, where are you guys watching us from and joining us from?
We're right in our living room in Bethel, Pennsylvania. So it's east central Pennsylvania on a cold, blustery May day.
We actually have a lot of rain and I think hail. I can hear it. I can't quite see it from where I'm at. I love that you brought in your full air show display background for Dougherty Air Shows. That's well done. I need a green screen or something behind me, the way kind of Greg Gibson does it. Let me start by asking you about your team. You are a very family-forward team and unique. So tell me a little bit, and all of us watching, a little bit about yourselves.
Well, Paul Dougherty. I'm an air show performer. I've been flying air shows for about 20 years now, and about 5 years in the Christen Eagle, or 4 years in the Christen Eagle. And but just as you said, we're a family team. We travel. Caroline travels with me. She's my announcer. When it's a local show, the rest of the family, my wife and my younger daughter also come. And the younger daughter actually gets in too. She sings the national anthem when she can at air shows.
That's the coolest family experience ever. We're going to bring Greg Gibson back into the conversation here in just a second. I know that when I looked through some of the photos that you had sent to us for this particular segment, what I noticed was a deep love of iconic older vintage aircraft. Before I jump into bringing Greg into the air show experience, why the older planes?
You know, it's funny. The older I get, the older the airplanes I like. Our very first airplane was in 1949, and my taste has just gone back further and further and further. And real love right now is World War I airplanes. So I really can't explain it. It's just something that has happened to me over the years.
Caroline, what is it for you?
I just love being able to do this with my dad and making all the memories that we do. We do everything together, whether it's traveling or just doing fun stuff pretty much every day. And it's like we both have this passion and it's amazing to share it together.
We have someone now joining us from the Netherlands. Hey, Stigi, thank you so much for being a part of the live chat. Get your comments and questions in for all of you who are out there watching who are really interested in some of those older airplanes. Between the two of them, Caroline included, they have a lot of experience with these old planes. So bringing Greg back into the conversation, you had an opportunity to come out to Sun and Fun, Caroline and Paul, last year. Tell me a little bit about what your experience was as a guest of the show.
It was amazing. Thank you again, Greg, for the amazing invite. I got a chance to visit Florida Aviation Network and do an interview with them about some of my aviation accomplishments. And a couple years ago, we got to join Sun and Fun Radio for an interview about some of our aviation passions and the museum, which we'll talk about shortly. And it was amazing last year just to get to know more people at Sun and Fun, meet some of our sponsors, and hang out with more fellow airshow performers.
Paul, I think your sister has joined in on the chat, so I'm tempted to ask her for some childhood stories of yours. So I just want you to know she's out there watching. Hey, Greg, tell me, one of the things you do is you allow any International Council of Airshow member to become a guest of the show. Can you just briefly describe that for me?
Yeah, so air shows are a big family. Matter of fact, I want to give a quick shout out. One of my air show buddies from El Salvador, Eduardo Poma, just logged on. So I'm excited. I've got my own watch party going on over here. So it's cool to see Scott Slocum and a couple other friends. So if you're a member of ICAST and you're an air show performer or producer, at Sun and Fun, we allow you to come in and attend the event for free. So we want you to be able to come in. There's obviously a lot of networking that can be done. And yeah, you know, it's a long time between April and December when we get our big family reunion in ICAST in Las Vegas in December. So we want to make sure that's available. They can come in and be a part of that group in the performer tent. And they just got to give us a little bit of notice, you know, coming up so that we know that they're going to be there. But it's also a good way to, you know, for people to see each other perform. You know, a lot of good notes and cues can get taken when you see a performance live. And not every air show performer can get to every air show. So we've got quite a few, usually over 60 at our events. So it's really good for people to be able to come in and share that knowledge and also be able to do that networking.
Bill LaFlamme joining in the chat saying his first time at Sun and Fun was last year, and now he's totally hooked. I feel the same. I started coming a few years ago to work with Greg, and the rest is history. Now the guy can't get rid of me, which is fine. So I wanted to, specifically for you, Caroline, one of the things that your family is focused on are the STEM activities, and that was going to be a big part of your Sun and Fun experience this year in working with the show. Tell me a little bit about yourself, because your level of accomplishment is through the roof awesome.
Thank you. So growing up, my bedroom window actually overlooks the runway. So I've always had that passion for aviation. When I was 14, my dad started officially giving me flying lessons. I soloed at 16, got my license at 17, and I'm currently now an aerospace engineering student at Embry-Riddle. And one of the things we were going to do at Sun and Fun this year was a STEM chat with airshow performers. And I was going to talk a little bit about learning to fly and aerospace engineering that I do, and aerobatics and stuff like that. And since we weren't able to do that, I am actually going to join Kimberly Brewer for an aviation summer camp live stream in June and talk to the kids and answer some questions about being in the industry and being like a young kid in the industry.
It's incredible to see not only your passion for it, but also your follow through. In addition to this list of accomplishments that you have, you're also a model, because today you're modeling a very fancy shirt. And I'm wondering if for Miss Jeannie, who is the one who has distributed these shirts to all of our performers, tell me who you're wearing, my friend.
I am wearing a 2020 Sun and Fun t-shirt with one of these fabulous badges, the greatest air show that never happened. You can purchase any of these shirts. There are lots of different designs and colors online, and you can order it with this badge on the side. And if you wear the shirt to Sun and Fun 2021, then there will be people walking out through the crowd looking for people with these t-shirts, and you'll be eligible to win prizes and upgrades. And it's a lot of fun. Buy the shirt.
I love it. I had to drop in on
for the shirt. Yeah. She's been amazing.
I did just drop in on the chat, and I was like, that one was for you, Jeannie. You are very welcome. One of the things that happens that makes us fall in love with air shows are the people. At its core, it's always about the people. And sometimes those lead to some entertaining stories. So I want you to let us in behind the curtain a little bit and talk about one of your air show rituals, which involves a rental car.
our air show ritual. Well, it started out as a confusing issue we had.
So when we get to air shows, the performers always get the rental car to get to the hotel room. So what we usually do is he drives and I navigate. But usually we have some miscommunications.
We argue.
Yeah, we argue a lot. So we have some miscommunications and we always make a wrong turn. So we end up always doing a U-turn somehow, no matter where we are, because we get lost every single time.
So it's become a ritual now. It's a good luck thing. We have to do at least one U-turn when we're driving to a hotel or driving to dinner or something. We have to do one when we're out on an air show.
All right.
That's our little good luck turn.
I love it. We're letting you in behind the curtain, folks. Stevie from the Netherlands has a question, and forgive me, Stevie, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. There's some vowels in there that I'm unfamiliar with how to pronounce correctly, so I'm doing the best I can. Stevie would like to know what you want to do when you're finished with Embry-Riddle, Caroline.
So I chose to go to Embry-Riddle because it was really nice, like aviation school. And for me, I'm not sure if I want to stay with the flying and become an airline pilot or go into the aerospace engineering part of it. So what I'm doing now is outside of Embry-Riddle, I'm working on my flight ratings. I'm currently working on my instrument rating, and then hopefully this summer I'll get my commercial and CFI. But with that choice, it gave me some options to go the aerospace engineering route or the airline route. So I'm still not completely sure which I want to do, but I'll be prepared for both career paths. Right now, I'm probably leaning towards flying for an airline, but either way, on the side, I want to fly aerobatic competitions and air shows.
Man, you guys
better have a good job to pay for it.
Hey, so that dovetails sort of into my next question. And the chat, by the way, is full of people saying hi from all over the world. We now have Rick Peterson joining us from Canada. You mentioned the bad weather. We have weather here. He says, by the way, get over yourselves. It snowed where he is today. So there you go. Just letting you know. I want to talk about your background, Paul, because when you've had this incredible career in aviation, but the seed, the spark started this is why we're all in this, at an air show when you were a little kid with your dad. Tell me a little bit about your aviation career.
Yeah, like my dad, who was not a pilot, just a small town businessman, owned his own little business. And he used to take me to air shows, the famous Willow Grove Air Show we used to go to every year. And I got my start in just loving aviation that way. I grew up right near a small airport, and the airplanes would take off and land right over the house all day long. So again, Dad would take me out to the airport once in a while on a nice day on a Sunday afternoon, and we walk around and look at the airplanes. It evolved a number of years later where I was able to start working there at the airport, pumping gas, answering telephones, and we called the job the dispatcher job. And so I did that for a lot of years while I got my ratings. I got all the way through my commercial and started flying there, a single engine charter, and ended up with my first airline job when I was 21, worked for a regional airline, and then went to American Airlines when I was 24. And now it's a long time later. And I'm a 737 captain. I've been that for a while in American. But the real love is flying old airplanes. And where that happened again, somehow I talked my father into going in partnership with me on an old airplane when I was 19 years old. We bought a Cessna 195 that had been wrecked, and we spent 3.5 years rebuilding it and learning how to do it. And so we started with the 195 and just went from there. In the process, I started flying some aerobatics in an old Taylor craft that I shouldn't have been doing it in, and worked our way into a Pitt Special partnership, and then eventually into my Great Lakes that I restored and flew on the airshow circuit for a lot of years.
Well, and we will talk more about the Great Lakes because it has a very interesting impact on Caroline's sort of entry into this world. But did I read correctly? You have 23,000 some odd flight hours over the years. That's.
I think it's actually crested over 24,000 now. Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. I'm starting to lose count.
Yeah, who's counting?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's counting at this point? You mentioned this just a minute ago, the love of the older airplanes. Can you take me back, Caroline, to your first solo? You touched on it, but now I want to have folks to have a chance to see some of the incredible video and the photo of this specific Curtiss Jenny. Tell me about, and which is bananas, this was your first solo. Tell me take me back to that day.
Yeah, so I started learning to fly and I did most of my flight training in a Taylor E2 Cub. And I flew a lot of vintage tail draggers and things like that. And we said we should do something really cool for my 16th birthday, something that's never been done before. So we got the crazy idea for me to make my first solo flight in the 1917 Curtiss Jenny. So after a lot of years of preparation and hard work, then that day finally came. But I woke up and it was all rainy and it was IFR and I was devastated. I thought that like what I'd been dreaming for so long wasn't going to happen. But then a couple hours later, it cleared up a little bit and we went out and I took Dad's favorite toy for a spin around the patch. And yeah.
When you were coming back on downwind, you said you had a thought that kind of crossed your mind. You were so busy taking off and flying, but then it was time for the flight to end, and that's when it really sunk in what was happening.
I came back and I was taxiing in, and I saw Dad. He was standing in the middle of the airport with his phone camera videoing me.
Wiping the tears off my eye.
And he was all tearing up and crying. I was like, oh my gosh, I made him cry. But it was just an amazing moment. I waved to him from the cockpit, and I realized that I just become the first person to make their first solo flight in a 100-year-old. And it was like an amazing experience for me. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity.
Rick Peterson jumping in the chat to say mad respect to that. That is really incredible. Jeff Shaw joining in has a question, says, where did you fly to on your first cross-country solo?
I went to
Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh, yeah. I did do Wilmington, Delaware. I was thinking University Park, but that was my long cross-country. Yeah. Wilmington, Delaware.
I want to talk about the Golden Age Air Museum, which really is a family passion. Paul, tell me a little bit about the museum, and then Caroline, tell me a little bit about how you work and help the family business and create some of the fun events that people get to do as being part of the museum. Paul, we'll start with you.
Well, we started the museum again. It was my father and I. When we recently lost him, we lost my father in November, so it's been kind of a sad thing. But we started collecting these airplanes after the 195. We had so much fun. We bought another project, was the Taylor E2 Cub, and loved it, had fun. So then I bought the Great Lakes project, and we bought 2 more airplanes after that. And we sat there and looking at 5 airplanes, and my family said, what are you going to do with all these airplanes? I have 3 sisters, and Dad and I looked at them and kind of laughed and said, we're going to start a museum. And it was a joke at the time. And then I think about airplanes number 8 and 9, somewhere in there, we got real serious that where are we going to keep all these things once we get them flying? So we started on the hunt for an airport, and I found this old airport where we live now, Grimes Airfield in Bethel, Pennsylvania. And it was basically abandoned, but we have a beautiful 3,000-foot grass runway, and we didn't have any buildings. We had nothing here when we bought it. And I was a starving 727 first officer, an American, and sold everything I had and my soul, and lived in a camper for a while, and built what we have now, built the first hangar and rebuilt the first house that we had on the property, which is now our office and lobby, and got married the same year. So my wife is very understanding. Barely lived in the house it was barely finished. At least we had windows, we had heat. So, but, and that's how the museum started. So when we started here, we incorporated a couple years later. My father sold the house that we grew up in, and he built a house here along the runway as well, and spent the rest of his life here helping me and family, and our wonderful group of volunteers that we have here. The names are just endless of people that come and help us, from the pilots to mechanics to lawn care people. And that's how the museum started. So Golden Age Air Museum. And we started the museum with 3 flying airplanes. We now have 40 airplanes, and we have 20 of them airworthy. And 21 is on the screen right now. It should be flying in the next few weeks. And then Caroline's involvement.
Yeah, so I recently took my grandfather's spot on the board of directors. So that was amazing to be able to do that. And so now I'm currently secretary. So I do a lot of the gift shop stuff, training volunteers in the gift shop, also some volunteer coordination, and just help with the planning of events and daily operations on the weekends.
Tons of tech things.
Yeah, lots of behind the scenes things that a lot of people don't think of when running a museum.
I think, Paul, out of curiosity, given that you have 20 plus soon to be of these old aircraft flying, which one is your favorite to fly, or which one is your easiest to fly, and which one is the most challenging?
Well, the most challenging one I have to say is the Fokker DR1 triplane. And we built a reproduction of a World War I triplane. There it is on the screen. It's painted in the colors of Lothar von Richthofen, the Red Baron's brother. And it's got an original style engine on it and everything. So that's the most challenging. A lot of fun. I get to go up and shoot down a Sopwith Pup that we have on weekends. And not too many people can fly around in a triplane with an original engine and shoot down your best friend on Saturdays and Sundays. But that's the most challenging. The airplane that I usually kind of run for that I love to just go fly is the Taylor E2 Cub. It was our second airplane, and we still have it flying, a little 40-horse Cub, and Caroline flies it a lot. Wonderful airplane. And of course, the nostalgia. You want nostalgia, you climb in the Jenny. And then, of course, the Eagle. The Eagle's just is a lot of fun. So.
How many sisters do you have? Because I lost count. I think like 17 of them. 17 of them have checked in on the chat, and so hello to all of the family. Do you come from a large family?
Well, there's 3 sisters. Yeah, I'm the youngest of 4, and I have 3 older sisters. Yeah, we're all very close.
That's awesome. Well, they're all super supportive in the chat, so that's definitely nice to see.
They're supportive too of this place,
Yeah. Well, like everything, it takes a village. You already talked about giving up your heart and soul, to support aviation dreams. That is a more true in this particular community than I think just about any place else. So Caroline, I know because I asked you this question earlier, what do you like to do in your downtime? And your answer made me laugh. So for the folks who are just joining us on the stream, what do you like to do in your downtime?
So I might sound like a super nerd, but I study. Being a full-time student with aerospace engineering, I think it's one of the more difficult majors, and there's not really much time to do anything else besides you wake up in the morning and do homework, and then you like somehow find some time to eat like a couple times a day, and then you do more homework until you go to bed. So I'm doing that, and then also I'm working on my instrument writing right now, and I just try to fly as much as I can. So, and actually I love aerobatics too, and for one of my final projects this year at school, I had to do a coding project. So I made this program that the user was able to select different aerobatic maneuvers that they wanted. And then I programmed it so a little airplane would fly across the screen doing the routine that they just like had created. So anything that involves like aerobatics and flying is great for me.
Her IQ is like 450, and I'm pretty sure it stops at 200.
Yeah,
so that's
scary how smart she is.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely a joy. Paul, I want to talk to you about some of the things that you love to do. And what interested me in this was our conversation about sailing. While it involves the water, still kind of involves a wing. Tell me about your passion for sailing.
Well, yeah, I've been sailing a lot longer than I've been flying. I think I started sailing when I was 8 or 9, and been doing that ever since. Probably the only 2 jobs I've ever really had is in the sailing business and aviation. But yeah, we have a sailboat down on the Chesapeake, and we try to get down there as often as we can to use it, spend a few days at a time. But looking at a sailboat, it's a lot like flying. You're watching weather, you're challenging conditions, and the sails are basically big wings, and so very similar in principles. And becomes a lot more relaxing for me usually than flying. But we spend a lot of time with the sailboat if we can.
I want to talk about your airshow planes, and some folks who are joining in the chat have very specific questions about your airshow planes. Let's start by having you tell me about the Christen Eagle.
Christen Eagle. Well, it's a 1990 Christen Eagle. I did not build it. It was actually Sun and Fun Grand Champion kit built in 1990. Or Oshkosh Grand Champion. I'm sorry. I think it didn't make it to Sun and Fun that year, but it has been to Sun and Fun numerous times. But we purchased the airplane after it was in an unfortunate accident. The previous owner had a problem, and the landing gear collapsed on it, and drove the landing gear up through the bottom of the fuselage and the bottom wings, and of course took out the engine, propeller, and all the above. And that's where we bought it. It was something Caroline tried to talk me into doing, was get a little higher performance airplane in the Great Lakes, and constantly asking me, can we do this? Can we do that in the Great Lakes? And I'd say, no, we can't. We need something with some more performance. So we bought the Eagle and rebuilt it over a 9-month period, and had such a good time with the rebuild, and a lot of good times flying in it as soon as we got it done, that we decided to push it onto the airshow circuit, and actually really push it onto the airshow circuit now. and doing the ICAST conventions and hopefully flying Sun and Fun.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to add about the Eagle is it features about like 18 different colors on it. And I like to talk him up. So the bottom wings, we had to completely recover those and he had to repaint them. So he had to actually match the color scheme on the top wing by hand to the bottom wings, which took him many
it was a
days
long
of hard
time.
work.
All the colors are all matched by eye, and it was a color a day, and it was challenging. It was challenging to say the least. The airplane is about half original. The back half is still in the original covering from 1990, and so everything was matched in the colors.
I can't even pull that off in my kitchen. That's incredible. You did a very, very nice job. I have a question about this particular aircraft coming to us from Bill LaFlamme, who was wondering, given the size of the engine and the horsepower, can you hear the crowd at all when we're all standing out there, giving you a big cheer? No, okay.
It's like sitting in a tin can. I know when Caroline and I fly to the air shows all the time. In fact, she's my autopilot. She flies to and from the shows. I just sit in the back and play on my phone or something. And but we, even with the intercom and everything in the airplane, it's so loud. We have a tough time even communicating to each other. We just yell all the time. But,
Caroline, are you a 4.0 student? This year's one of your aunts are telling me this.
I am.
Yes.
Man, okay, I'm blown away. Thank you for sharing that, Gene, on the chat. Sherry has a question for you, Paul. Sherry is wondering how you learned so much about the mechanics of rebuilding airplanes. I know it started a long time ago, but to develop that knowledge set is incredible. Prior to YouTube.
I don't recommend people doing it this way, but trial and error. We bought that first airplane, the 195. It was a wrecked airplane. My father taught me how to be handy. He was always a handy person, but we had never done anything with airplanes. And but it was pretty much the only way at the time we could afford an airplane. And so we just learned. We put a lot together and we took a lot back apart. But having restored, I'm thinking I'm somewhere 13, 14 airplanes in my life. You just start to acquire the talents and ask a lot of questions and watch how it's done when other people do it. So.
This dovetails into your next air show plane that I want to talk about, but I want to start with Caroline. Caroline, the Great Lakes is near and dear to your heart. Take me back to an 11-year-old Caroline.
So the 11-year-old me loved roller coasters, and Dad would always go practice aerobatics, and I wanted to go so badly, but he always said I was too small. I wouldn't fit in the parachute. And then one day he goes, "Do you want to go flying?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you want to go upside down?" I'm like, "What? Really? Like, I'm big enough to do that now?" So we got me strapped into the parachute and strapped into the airplane, and we went up, and he did a loop for me and a roll, and I just wanted to do more and more. It was probably like one of my favorite flights of all time.
Instant addiction.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, Caroline, about how you sort of got into the role of crew chief and team announcer, in addition to all these other things that you do.
Yeah, so we always loved flying together and just doing everything together pretty much. But then after he took me to Oshkosh for the first time, and that was the first time, it was really my first big air show I'd been to. And I remember Patty Wagstaff in particular. Yeah. I watched her flying and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to do that.
We ended up holding the poles for Skip Stewart's ribbon cut. So that got her right up front.
So it was just basically going to Oshkosh and seeing like all these big names like Mike Goulian just fly their routines that made me want to get more involved with the industry. And Dad flying air shows in the Great Lakes. I really wanted something more high performance that he did too. So I somehow convinced him to actually go out and get an airplane in a project. And then he brought it to the airshow circuit. And the first year we thought it would be like really cool to do a family act, like with me being his like crew chief. And then after about a year of that, we said, we need to do something more special and really bring out like the family aspect of the act. So he's like, "Why don't you announce for me?" And I was like, "What? Like, I don't know how to announce." And he's like, "Just do it. It'll be fine." So I started out at some of our local shows here at home, doing little bits and pieces. And then, where was it? It was McGuire. Yeah, McGuire Air Force Base. That was my first time.
In front of 40,000.
Yeah, one of our bigger shows. It was my first time announcing his full routine, and I was absolutely terrified. And it was rough, but as each show progresses, I think it gets a little bit better each time.
I'm told she does a good job. I've never heard it.
So yeah, that's right, because you're in the tin can.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of how the father-daughter team came to be. We just really wanted to bring out the family aspect of our routine.
Well, it shows through without a doubt. I've got a question coming to us from the Florida Air Museum. The Florida Air Museum is wondering how do you choose your music and how does it integrate with the maneuver that you're trying to fly?
So the music, when we first started on the circuit with the Eagle, I had like these big ideas and it was like, we're going to make it like on point with the music. Like every roll is going to be perfect, like on the beat. And we tried it one time. No, it's not going to happen. Like, so we tried a whole lot of different medleys. We tried like different, like starting different songs, stopping at different times. And then for me, I realized that it was just a lot easier and simpler. And I think it looked nicer just to create like a medley of a couple of songs and let it play through and not try to deal with it with different points in the act. Actually, with the announcing, it was just too much to handle. So I just put together, we try to find like some upbeat fun songs.
And we've always opened to the same songs.
Yeah,
same
a 70s song for a
never
70s
stopped.
airplane.
Spencer Davis Group.
Yeah.
Always.
So we just, when we hear something, it's funny, we'll be like driving down the road or something and hear a song on the radio. We'll think this would be a good acro song. So just,
most of them can.
yeah, so when we think of something, we just keep it in mind. And then at the beginning of the season, when I make the soundtrack, then just put it in.
Steve Holtinger is in the chat watching. And by the way, Steve, thank you for your help with that video that you're seeing on the screen right now. We really appreciate it. Steve's a fantastic guy, always helping us out. It's funny when you say you hear a song in the car and you're like, oh, that'd be a good acro song. Because I think maybe most of us are like, oh, that'd be a good song to work out to or whatever. And your frame of reference is so incredibly cool. As we get ready to wrap things up, I want to know, what are your future plans as a family act?
The real dream is it's maybe could be a nightmare too. I don't know. Is to move into 2 airplanes. Once Caroline gets to the point where she's going to be flying competition and starting to work into more display aerobatics, we hope to make it a 2 airplane act and maybe get my younger daughter announcing if we can talk.
Fantastic.
But we're a ways off from that. She's got to finish college first.
Well, with that class load and the GPA, I don't even know where to start. Tim Haggerty has a question for you about taking off and landing at the Mount Pocono Raceway. Was that challenging? Sounds like tell me this. I'm missing a key element of the story here.
Well, it was a great air show last year. I was asked to do it, and it didn't take me but a second to say yes. We were actually landing on the back stretch between turn 1 and 2, I think it is, of the Mount Pocono NASCAR track. And we flew the show right over the paddock, right in front of the grandstands. Wonderful show. There was only 3 of us that landed out there. It was Greg Kuntz and David Windmiller and myself. And they set up a hangar right in the middle of the field. And we kept the airplanes all weekend. It was a wonderful show. A lot of performers came in from other airports. They couldn't land there. But challenging with a 30-foot catch fence on one side and then a concrete wall on the other side. It was... I said it was 90 feet, I guess, between, which is plenty wide enough, but it's kind of a mental challenge to land down between that fence and the things there. But it was a lot of fun. It was a great show.
There you go. That's your story. I love it. I love it. Let's bring Greg Gibson back into the conversation. Speaking of Greg Coons, what do we have coming up on Thursday, Greg?
Yeah, my old pal Greg Coons. He's going to be joining us for our next performer profile on Thursday. And he's been a mainstay at Sun and Fun for a long time. So we got some fun stories for you. We've known each other for a while. So this might go a little bit off script, Steph. I'm not sure if I can keep anything with that guy in the room. So we'll see what happens.
I'm looking forward to it. If there's one thing I love, it's just trying to keep the train on the tracks, and we'll just see how she goes. Paul and Caroline, you have been an absolute pleasure to interview. Thank you for letting us kind of behind the scenes into your life. I want to reference on your screen the flysnf.org website where all of your Sun and Fun Home Edition information is, information about the t-shirts, ways to donate if you're in a position where you can help, because at the end of the day, it's about inspiring the kids, be it how Paul found his way into aviation or if it runs in the family like it now does with Caroline. There are a lot of touch points here, and Sun and Fun does a phenomenal job of making sure that the industry is supported by the best and brightest minds. So again, to everyone, thank you so much. It was a joy. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks. We had a blast.
Yeah. Hey, Steph, I
Looking
want
forward
to
to
just throw in there real quick.
2021.
We
Yeah.
got a lot going on with the Aerospace Center for Excellence programs right now. Even though everybody's locked at home, our STEM programs are off and running. Kimberly Brewer, which Caroline mentioned a little while ago, has really done a great job of getting our STEM chats going. We've got summer camps that are going to be online this year. There's a ton, so they can all be accessed through that flysnf.org website. So those of you watching, you got kids at home, they're looking for stuff to do to keep them interested in airplanes, that's the place to go.
Outstanding. Couldn't have said it better myself. Hey, everyone, we really look forward to having you back Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where things probably go right off the rails with wearing Coots. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. See ya.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.